Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. On this episode, we finally get this 84 Astra roof car started up, broken in, and get it on the road. Let's hop to it. In the last episode, you saw me set the engine and transmission in. I've run a few wires since, but there's still a lot more to go. So I've got my power steering belt, 15375 AP. I believe this is specific to hot air models. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. And we'll pop this on. We'll get the adjustment locked in, and we'll move on to the next thing. On these, you gotta basically take off the first 3 bolts here, and then the nut that's on the back side of it right down in there. And that'll allow you to have this level of adjustment. We'll leave that off for now. Just focus on these 2, lock everything in, get the belt tension tight, route our wires, get everything looking good.
Feel stronger and sound softer. It's just not ripping through the gears like it should, but I want to do it.
So I'm lucky enough to have a set of hot air headers, and there's 2 sets of bolts that go into them. Now, you see these with the flange on it? 1.6 inch bolts go into these, and 1 inch bolts go into these. Now, I wanted to switch out, get some stainless steel looking ones. So these are hex head bolts with a serrated flange, and you can get some that are 1 inch all the way up to 1.75 inches, and then just chop them off a little bit so you can get this kind of length out of your bolts. And that way we can dress up the underside of the hood and make sure everything looks good. Let's get these installed. Now this time around, I will be installing gaskets that came with the kit. I didn't install gaskets last time, and I was running into situations where it wasn't sealing wholly. That robs the engine of boost. So I'm gonna use gaskets this time. I don't think I need to use some of that orange sealant, but I'll monitor without, and if I do, it's quick and easy to change these out. On the passenger side, you can see the most blaring example of blowout with the back 2 cylinders. So gasket this time for sure.
Obviously, it's a lot dirtier, but when you look right here, 2-lane road that I told you about that I really didn't like, and really big semi on the full load. First thing I'm going to go after is looking at our jets in the hood. I'm going to do some painless. I have an elevated back up. I kind of popped the jets out. There's still a little bit of
because he didn't keep it in America. He kept it in China. In the end.
One thing that I hate with a passion is putting this crossover pipe back in. Now this is the aftermarket unit, and thankfully it does have a sleeved collar here, so it routes exhaust well. But on this side, to gain, I guess, a little bit of flexibility, you don't have that same sleeve on this side. So this has been the bane of my existence for a few weeks when I was first installing it, trying to get everything to line up and for it to be leak-free. So I'm using the rest of my orange copper, and hopefully that gasket material will be enough. It's less important to put it on this side, but I will anyway, just to make sure everything seals up well, but we'll get it in there. All right, we're getting a little closer. We have all of our headers in and torqued up, which also means our up pipe is in and looking good. Next up, I'm gonna pop on my alternator bracket, get these grounds and everything situated. I'm gonna bend this line out of the way, and then get this wire routing looking good because it should tuck in right behind here. I still don't have the lines for the hot air heater core, so I'm gonna work on that offline. My old one just had a little bit of rust, and it didn't make sense to put it on here when it wasn't 100%. And we'll be a little bit closer. We still have some more wires on this side that we need to put back up here. So our fuel pump relay, hob switch, things like that. Then I still have my breather system fixes on the way, hoping that will work out. We're just a couple steps away from starting it up. I'm gonna start it up without the radiator and fan in just for a second, just so I can hear a sweet, sweet startup. I just wanna make sure it's building oil pressure, things are looking good, nothing catastrophic is going on, because this more so than any other engine I've ever worked on, if you don't install things in a particular order, it messes it up and you gotta take stuff right back off and put it right back on. And I'd rather do that where I'm at an advantage rather than not. So let's continue trucking on. All right, so I just made another trip to AutoZone to get some of the last minute things that we need for first startup. And here is what I'm going to use on the passenger side valve cover. It's an expansion plug, and it's made out to be just the right size to get in here. So if you take a look, I scuffed the edges just a little bit, just to round them off, and we'll be able to just slide it right on in there. And I feel like that would give us some adequate protection from how hot everything else is. The rubber is really dense. It's meant to stand up to a few hundred degrees. And then even if I have to wrap here and here, just to try to keep this area, a little bit cooler than necessary, I can do that. But I'll continue to monitor the temps here after I push this all the way in. If that doesn't end up working, then I can always just get it TIG welded, whatever we need to do to get it done, but I feel pretty good about this. So here's what it looks like installed. I'd recommend using Loctite if you do something like this, just to make sure the vibration doesn't result in anything popping off. One of the reasons why I'm not concerned about anything falling in there is because there's a baffle underneath these, so this bolt is the only part that can slide down, and the bolt is way too big. All right, everybody, so I've gotten everything back together. I filled it up with 4.5 quarts of oil and then the remainder of a ZDDP additive, especially since I'm using flat tappet cams. You want to be able to put enough zinc in the system to where it's not going to eat away at that cam. And I think we're ready for startup. I've double and triple checked everything. It looks like everything is hooked up that requires it to run. I left off the cooling fans right now, but I'll hook them back up as long as everything else sounds good. I've got my exhaust bolted on all the way to the back. I should smoke test it. You know what? Let me smoke test it first, and then we'll start it up. I am more than excited. I can't wait. All right, so far I got just a little bit coming out of here, which is understandable. A little bit coming out of the TPS, and then it looks like there's a little bit of a leak on the back side of this hose. So we'll get those tightened up, and I think we're ready for first start. I saw a little bit of smoke coming out from around here. You do need a band clamp with this downpipe. Smoke testers are just invaluable. I never would have noticed it until startup otherwise. All right, it took some weeks to get here. It took almost a year to get here. But let's start it up. Fingers crossed it starts up, fires up on the first try, and everything is good. Okay, I like the way that sounds. Remember, I don't have any cooling system components on here yet, so I don't want to run it for long. I'm going to get all of that back on here, fill it, burp the system, and then hopefully in the morning we can get it outside and take it for a first drive. All right, so we got the cooling system in. Everything is filled up. let's retry first start now that everything is all back together, see what we get.
But it does fall on the offensive coordinators a lot of the time.
Okay, so I took it on a quick test drive, maybe about half a mile to a mile away. It's shifting well, it's doing all of the things it needs to do. I have a cutout on this car, so I opened the cutout and I can hear the boost. Let me see if I can do that for you right now. Yeah, so it gets really loud. It's just really hard to hear creaks, rattles, taps, anything that I need to be concerned about because it's raining so heavily. Not to mention, I didn't put the wiper blades back on from the G-Body AC box video that I that I made a few weeks ago. So I don't have wiper blades, so it's not safe to drive. So I'm just gonna park it back in the garage right now. That's gonna be it for this video. On the next video, I'm gonna do some more shakedown testing. I'm gonna get it out on the road, see how it does. I'm also going to work on tuning in my next video because right now I want to make sure I dial in the cam and make sure that everything looks good there. Hopefully I can put enough miles on it to drop the oil, see what the glitter looks like, and go from there. But thank you so much for watching this video. It finally runs. We can get it out on the road. I've been looking at this car for a really, really long time. This is the first Grand National that I rebuilt. So seeing it from end to end, seeing what it came to and how much further it has to go, it's put a big smile on my face, and I just appreciate every one of you for watching the transformation from this to what we are right now. So talk to you on the next video.